courtside reporter because I used to have a friend, or one of my friends from high school. She was a big fan of UAE. And honestly, I wasn't into sports that much. Pero yung era nila, Jeron Teng, yan, yung mga medyo old na, I mean, bata pa rin sila, but you know what I mean? Like, the mga unang wave of yung first na sikat na UAE players, yun pa yung mga naabutan ko. But then I wasn't so into it na I would watch it, inaabangan ko talaga siya. It wasn't something na I was very into. But I enjoy watching sports kahit hindi ako sporty as a person, of course. Parang sports is always there. It's a good source of entertainment. Tapos my friend from high school, she was an avid fan. I remember, she would cut classes to watch yung games ng Lasal, UP, and all that. I think that was during the time of sila, yung mga magkakapatid. Yes. Yung era na yun. She was very into that. Tapos parang, she invited me, pero I remember hindi ako sumama kasi I think I would have to go sa class to watch the game live. Pero I just remember she would tell me stories the next day when we would see each other after she watched. Tapos she said, you know what? You're courtside reporter because during that time, I've never tried hosting sa school ganyan. I wasn't exposed to anything of that sort. But I've always liked public speaking, and I think yung mga reports sa school, alam mo yun, yung mga reporting sa school presentations, I've always enjoyed that. And it was something that my teachers, professors would commend that I was good at. So she's like, I think you can be a courtside reporter or something. And then I laughed it off. I said, what is that? What do they do? So I knew in my head it was a type of sports reporter ganyan, but I wasn't familiar with what they did. And I remember I was watching a game and it was with Angelique Manto. Yes, Angelique Manto. And I vividly remember seeing that tiny screens na mag-pop kapag magsisimula yung report. And she just looked beautiful, very confident, and she was delivering her report flawlessly. And I remember thinking to myself, that is cool. I kind of want to be like that. Then it started. I started kind of getting into it more and watching games and seeing the correspondence and thinking they were so cool. But it was a dream of mine. It started to become a dream of mine, but dun pala. But it was always something that I thought was never in the cards for me. I never thought I'd be able to do that. Because my numbers by Singapore, in my head before, I had to be the UAAP. To the UAAP school, to be a UAAP correspondent. Well, we know the rules. But, so here's my Singapore, and I was just considering like schools, ganyan, and I think one of the schools that I wanted to be in was actually UST. But I honestly thought that it was gonna be kind of challenging for me, or it wouldn't be as practical. So that's how it started. That's where the dream started. Sorry, I don't know how I started, but college, senior high, I was a pandemic graduate of senior high. So kami yung batch na actually hindi nakapag-march on stage because coronavirus happened. And during that time, I believe I only took an entrance exam. So UST pa lang. I was busy also with thesis during that time when I was in senior high. So it was only UST. And then I was gonna take exams sa ibang schools pa, but then everything basically shut down. And then I passed to STEM. But I remember I was like 50-50 on it. Kasi then I did the interviews pa ganyan, and I was 50-50 on it, thinking na I think it might be a little over what the budget is. So I had to be practical, and then pandemic happened, everything was uncertain. then my friend was like, why not try the plan? Tapos I ended up in the plan, and parang masagot ko yung second question ko, but I ended up in the plan. I ended up in the plan because of that reason, because my friend was like, they're sister schools, kind of like that, and I heard good things about the communication broadcast subjects, or not subjects, broadcast na course in the plan. I heard that they had good professors, ganyan, and it was one of their pilot courses during that time, I believe. So I was kind of like, you know what, why not? And I didn't have to take the entrance exam anymore or do anything. I could go straight into enrollment na. So, dun siya nagsimula. And then, come college, ganyan, I forgot about the dream of becoming a courtside reporter or correspondent because I wasn't in a UAE school. Although I knew about NCAA, but in my head, NCAA was more for people with more experience because I remember Angelique Manto, Krishna, after they did their UAE stint, they went to NCAA. During that time, it was with Senate. And so I forgot about it all. But then I saw that they had a contract with GMA na. And then my friend was like, why don't you try now? They're starting from scratch. Maybe, this is a good time to try. But then I was very, very scared. I've always been scared to try things like that because I didn't think I had what it takes to be a correspondent. And then I think fourth year, my final year of college, one of my professors randomly sent me the link to the Facebook post of GMA announcing that they are opening their auditions for season 99. And then I checked the requirements. It was, I think, like, close-up photo view, full body photo view, like a 1-minute video introduction. During the time, I had taken like updated photos. So I was like, you know what? I kind of have everything that is necessary for me to audition. And I didn't have to go in person yet. So why not try? What do I have to lose? So I did. And the rest was history.
Experience to be courtside reporter.
Changing for me, or it was life changing for me. As somebody, like I mentioned earlier, as somebody who has always been afraid to go out of their comfort zone, who has been confused about what she wanted, being a correspondent really gave clarity in a sense that it made me feel like I finally, for once, knew something that I wanted, something that I enjoyed doing, something that felt fulfilling for me. At the same time, it was life-changing in a sense that it made me realize that all you really have to do when you want something is to put yourself out there. That is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from becoming a correspondent, na hindi lang nag-a-apply career-wise, but in all other areas or aspects in my life now as an adult. And also, I have learned valuable lessons when it comes to professionalism. One of our bosses, who also became a friend of mine, si Sir Vic, I remember one of his first parang unang tinuro niya sa amin was be easy to work with. Now that saying is something that I carry with me wherever I go, to my corporate job, to every other things that I do, ganyan, in my life. So yung mga ganyan, that's where I learned it from becoming a courtside reporter or a correspondent. And of course, I was also able to build connections, to meet a lot of people, really expose myself, and it opened a lot of doors for me as well. It gave me opportunities that I didn't think I would have, and it just really boosted my confidence, and it made me believe that I am capable of doing things. So I think those are some of the things that changed after I became, or some of the things that I learned rather from being a correspondent.
correspondent you learn the most?
The correspondents that I have worked with or that I have met in my 3 years of being an NCAA correspondent, iba-iba sila eh. From one correspondent to another, they have different styles, they have different approaches, different way of writing, different way of delivering reports. You have to learn from them as you go, as you work with them. Of course, you have to rewatch the games, even though you don't directly like work with them or you're not with them during that game. Whenever you rewatch the games, you would hear their reports and you learn from them. And I personally get inspired from them as well. I get inspired when I hear they wrote good report. Parang it parang fuels me to even work harder or to even be better at my craft. And I think isa sa mga pinaka talagang correspondent na natuto ako from would be San Agustin, si Tin. She is one of the courtside reporters that has been with NCAA for like 4 years. So, ahead siya sa akin ng isang taon. So, she started in season 98 and she was my first ever correspondent na partner. Sa first ever coverage ko, Tin was the one na nandun. I remember it was the opening game, first ever game of the season sa MOA Arena, and I just couldn't believe that game was given to me. Because in NCAA, we had like mga old correspondents, and as you know, we are not assigned to a specific school, so we cover all schools. So it could really be anybody. And at that time, as a rookie correspondent, I didn't think that that would be given to me, and I covered that game. Tapos, I think it was against JRU. I think it was against JRU ata. I could be wrong, but I think it was against JRU. And Christine was my partner. And I remember thinking that I am very grateful that she was my partner for that first game. Because although nakaka-pressure in general, the whole experience and my first ever coverage, I think she helped a lot in making me feel comfortable. She wasn't intimidating. She was very open and willing to guide me if I had any questions. And she's, in general, just a really, really good correspondent in my opinion. And now she has become one of my close friends from NCAA. And whenever I hear her report, it's always just inspiring. And she always just, her reports, herself, how she works, is just something that reminds me that I should continue to work hard and to be better every single day.
How hard to be courtside reporter and student?
I became a courtside reporter at a very crucial time sa college years ko because I was a graduating student during my rookie year, during my first year in the NCAA, and I had to balance courtside reporting, being a student, and also working a part-time job because during that time, I was also working as an online ESL teacher or tutor to Japanese students. So I was like juggling 3 different things at the same time. During that time, I also have to work on my thesis, and then there's our internship pa. So it was quite chaotic, but I think what it taught me was that if you really, really, really want something, you will always find a way to make things work. And it is always just a matter of showing up. Yung will mo to show up, yung will mo to have the energy for the things that you've committed to, yun talaga yung game changer for me. And that is what helped me survive. Yung being a student, also being a working student, and also being a correspondent at the same time. I remember I would have game days where punta muna ako sa game, and then didiretso ako sa Intramuros to catch my classes for that day. And then during the weekends, I would sometimes have a game, and then pag week ko, I would then teach kasi online lang naman siya. So those were the days na talagang chaotic yung schedule ko, but I found a way to make it work because I loved what I was doing. Yung biggest difference nila for me is yung nature ng players as well. I feel like, of course, very competitive, equally competitive, and equally challenging both sports. But when it comes to volleyball games, I cover women, and then basketball games, of course, I cover men. And then I think it also just has to do with the way like men and women athletes are. I feel like sometimes yung basketball players, they are a little more serious before the game. Medyo mas like is in, parang pagdating pa lang is, ano na sila, locked in na sila. Which is not that thing. And yung mga, volleyball players, they are the same. But since there are women, it's kind of easier to approach them. It's mas madali to connect with them in a sense. I think that is one of the difference when it comes to interviewing them. Yeah. And I think, although like it is actually, I think it is a skill. If you're a correspondent, if you are able to help players open up more to you, for them to be vulnerable, to share their stories. I feel like it's just sometimes harder to, or not harder, more challenging rather, to do that with basketball players, ganyan, sa mga guys, sa medyo, stand off, medyo mas sila eh. Parang medyo mas may konting angas pa, medyo mas nahiyain sila sometimes. But with women, since I think mas comfortable sila, ganyan, since I'm also a woman, siguro mas easier for them to be more candid, to be more vulnerable. But yeah, I was pretty lucky in general to have players who were nice, who were friendly, ganyan, who were always ready to help at game, mag-interview kahit intense yung game, kahit malaki yung game nila na it's a spare sila time. So, very, very grateful ako. Ganon. I have dreamed of becoming both. When I was in college, before I realized that I actually like speaking, hosting, reporting, I was more leaning towards the idea of doing film, writing films, ganyan, and being in the parang crowd media na nasa podcast, behind the camera, ganyan. So, it's something that I would always have interest for. Lagi yan na doon. I'm a fan of the arts. I'm a fan of the film industry, filmmaking in general, the art and craft of filmmaking. I'm a big fan of. I have so much respect for people who are in that industry, and it is something that I would always consider if I get the chance to work on something like that again. Because I think I worked on a film once in college, so we submitted a film for the Manila Film Festival, and yan for students. Tapos, it was a good experience as well. But actually now, after becoming a correspondent, I would really love the chance to become a news anchor or like a newscaster, because I think it just made me realize how important it is to have that representation as well. Yung mga newscasters natin, yung reporters natin, they're all essential in our country, in our communities, of course. So I would like to play a part in delivering stories to a broader audience, in a sense, about like pressing social issues, kanyan. So I think that is, both of them are my dreams. But right now, I would really love a chance to be a news reporter.
Thank you for watching.